recorded. Okay, we won't have to do that over again. I think everybody's okay with not seeing us introduce ourselves. So, okay, so our agenda today, and we are going to take questions, and if we can't get to them, who's ever talking is going to be the other person. This is a good example if you can team teach or use your paraeducator, if there's paraeducators attending right now. This is a great thing to do, especially when you have a large amount of people. Most of you will just have your classroom so you can, answer questions in your elementary. So the kids will probably actually raise their hands, or you might even turn off the chat to the kids for a little bit and then wait. But if you do have somebody that can monitor the chat while you're talking, that makes it really nice. Depending too, especially if you have older elementary students, because they can definitely type faster than the littles. They tend to peck away at stuff. So, we're going to talk about communication tips. One of the things that we looked at was feedback from the first iteration of virtual learning. So I wanted to share that. We wanted to share that information with you. Connections between UDL and distance learning. This is something that came up several times during our principal and administrative meetings yesterday. So I know not all schools are doing UDL, but some of them are. So, and people call it different things like differentiation and things like that. So what is the connection between those? And then the main thing is tips to being an amazing distance teacher. I know some people feel overwhelmed, but I also know that the first iteration of virtual learning was awesome, and that even though most people were working their butts off and really, working really hard to make it work, that even though that was hard work, the feedback I saw from teachers is that, and paraeducators, was that it was good. It was really good work that was being done. The other thing I wanted to point out on this slide is something that's come up with, I know, all educators, is the recording of the videos. Because we need flexibility with our families, just as you need flexibility right now, we are asking that teachers do record their sessions. However, as you can see from some of the people, if you scroll down on some of the people, they just have their name. So this is a recorded session. If you don't want your face to be on the recorded session, you can just put your name on this. You could even have students who don't want to be identified. You could identify them by, give them a number 1 or 2 or something like that in a video recording. So we just wanted to show this, that you can use this as a disclaimer for your families if they're very concerned, especially about their child's picture, video, or whatever being on a recording. So, all right, Megan.
So just as we kind of get started, we just wanted to start off with a few reminders, kind of to get everybody in a slightly different frame of mind about this. So the first thing is, we sadly will not have all the answers and all the details, which I know is frustrating, and it's frustrating for us too. But what we want everyone to kind of keep in mind is have in the back of your head kind of a tried and true project or lesson and activity that you love to teach and that your students really enjoyed. Just have that in the back of your mind as we go through all of this. And if you don't have one of those, reach out to a trusted colleague, a teammate, to kind of get some ideas around that. The next thing, like I kind of said before, is, again, we won't have all the details, and just keep in mind that next week is a soft start. So it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be gradual. So just keep that in mind, and really remember to rely on your own strengths, and keep in mind that it's important to harness your students' strengths and interests as well. So we just kind of wanted to start with that, so everyone had it in their mind as we went through all the other slides.
All right, thanks, Megan. All right, so one of the things that came out from the families that when we received feedback, or Shelby Reynolds and I ran a parent webinar a couple weeks ago once we started the first iteration of virtual learning. And so, especially parents with multiple children in the district, and you guys might be feeling this as well if you have kiddos at home. I have 2 teenagers at home. Fortunately, I worked in the district, so I pretty much know where the emails are coming from. But if you have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary kiddo in the district, and you're getting 2 to 3 emails from each teacher a day, let's see, whose mic is, oh, okay. families were getting very overwhelmed with the amount of email they were receiving because they had no idea either who they were from, which kiddo they were from. They were having a really hard time organizing them. So one of the things we really want to work on this iteration is to lessen that confusion with families and create a more consistent, and I know some schools worked on this, but it was not an overarching thing to do. So I want to make sure we're pretty clear on this. So again, families felt really, so we want to be clear, concise, and you want to make sure your email's labeled clearly. So what I did here, sorry, I'm doing notes on one and doing this one, is, is I created a, for some reason my arrow got moved up, but see, this is where I'm making mistakes. So you can see my, is I created an email, and what I did is that Skyview Middle School is first, so the parents can see exactly what school it is from. Now they might have 2 elementary kids from Kokanee or Kenmore or wherever, but at least they can see which school it's from, especially if they have kids in multiple grades. And then I put in the grade I teach. Now I know we're doing elementary, so that makes sense. You could put in, especially if people have 2 kids at a specific elementary school, they could have 4th grade, 5th grade. Then I know in elementary, they might not have the social studies piece. I just made this for both. And then you would just put your name. So Skyview Middle School, or let's say Kokanee Elementary, 3rd grade, Mrs. Bjornstad. And then, so we want to make sure those subject lines are fairly consistent, especially the school name and the grade for elementary, because that is really taking a lot of stress off of the parents. Also keep messages short and to the point. I know we have all gotten a lot of emails lately, and I think it's really interesting is sometimes we don't practice what we preach, and we get all these really long emails, and we really need to be using bullet points, because as you guys get overwhelmed with the amount of emails that you get, you can imagine parents who aren't in this industry getting overwhelmed as well. So we encourage you to only send 2 per week. Start getting your families in the habit of checking your classroom learning platform for information instead of emailing you. It's going to save you a lot of time in the end once you train your families, if you haven't already, to check a specific spot for information, FAQs, where they're going to find information. And then I would encourage you to bullet information. So for example, I am really a social studies teacher. I shouldn't even air quote that one. So I put like our topic of the week, because we're looking at big concepts, is immigration. When is their project due? It's due next week. And they have several days to complete it. That's one thing that we really want to build into the schedule, is flexibility for families of when they can complete work. I'm telling the kiddos when I'm available. So I'm available tomorrow for my virtual office hours. I asked them to stop by and check in, ask questions. I can, that way parents know exactly and can put it on their calendar of when we're available. And then where's my recorded link for the last virtual session? So that's just basic information. You might add more of what you want to add in there. But again, just keep it short, clear, and concise, and it's just going to make families' lives a lot easier.
Okay. So as we kind of talked about with the agenda, we're going to be looking at some, oh, did you go to the next one? Oh, there it is. Sorry, it didn't show.
Sorry. I was like, wait a minute, I have like 4 screens going.
I know, I'm like, okay. So we're going to talk about some of the connections between Universal Design for Learning, which is UDL, you might hear it referred to as that, and distance learning. So I know we don't all have our cameras on, but if you do have your camera on, if you could just kind of let us know your familiarity with UDL, just with a thumbs up, like I totally got it, sideways, oh, I've heard it, but I don't get it, or a thumbs down, like, what? I've never heard of that. And I'm just gonna scroll through the pages to kind of get a feel where we're at. Okay.
You can also go into participants and use the thumbs up.
Okay. You can use the little emoji thing too.
If you have a thumbs up. Or you can put it in the chat box. I'm kind of I'm monitoring that. So,
Okay. So we're not going to go into every piece of UDL today, but just we're going to give a little brief intro to it. So I'm going to give you about 1 minute just to read what's on this slide. Hopefully you can see it, or you can open up the slide link that we sent and just read that for a second.
And I just resent out the link to the PowerPoint or the slide deck.
Okay. Is that enough time? Great, I'm seeing some nods. All right. So the big idea behind UDL is it's really about giving students choice and multiple means to present the knowledge that they have. And the best way that I've really heard it described that helped me understand it was thinking about you're making a meal, right? Your lesson is your meal for your students. And sometimes we feel as though we need to make 28 individualized meals for each one of our students that meets each one of their specific meals and their needs, right? And so we can do that, right? And it takes a lot of time and it's important work to do. But there's also another way you could do it, and that's by creating a buffet where you have those options for your students, and then they're able to use their own strengths and their own interests to choose what really fits them and fits their needs. And as we think about this situation that we're in right now, where everybody's experiencing a new environment, varying levels of stress, all of those factors, it's really important that we are giving our students some choice and those opportunities to really be successful with that and play off of their strengths. So again, this is just a tiny touch of what UDL is, but in the next slide, Katie's going to talk about kind of how that really connects to distance learning. And again, UDL, it's something that is so important to use in your classroom as well, like your physical brick and mortar classroom, but it applies also to this new situation that we're in.
So this question came up and everybody kind of calls it a different, I really like Megan's analogy of a buffet. And most of us do this in our classroom anyway, but sometimes I think in a classroom environment, there's one, maybe two of us. If you're lucky enough to have a paraeducator or some parents that are helping out, but typically, especially in the elementary classroom, it's you and your kiddos. And as we all know, teaching a variety of students, we do the best we can to meet those needs. But it is challenging. One thing I've found working online that I have really enjoyed is that it's a little bit easier to personalize and individualize education than it is in the classroom because you're typically not dealing with the amount of classroom management issues. So some of the connections between UDL and distance learning is that you want to make sure you have a clear learning goal, which as educators, we typically do, and it's really no different than in the digital environment. Personalized learning for each student, which we'll talk a little bit about, which might be kind of maybe stressing people out a little bit is how do I do this? But we're going to give you some ideas today, and we're going to continue with webinars on how to support you in that. Choice with how an assignment is completed, that's the buffet part, is you might lay out the buffet is the assignment, but there's different ways in which you can fill your plate to complete that assignment. As we know in this day and age, we have flexibility in place and time of where our students are working and how they're doing that work. And then regular feedback to inform learning is really important. And I'm sure a lot of you, as you're watching this, some of you might be like, I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. And this is nothing new. Yeah. And again, we're just trying to make those connections between what you're doing already and the connection with online learning, because some people see it as a big jump, and really most people are doing exactly what they need to do. They just might need to tweak it a little bit.
Mhm. Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit about tips to being an amazing distance teacher. And Megan and I worked on this yesterday, and this is where I think Megan really brings. I've always been secondary, and this is where I really think that Megan brings her elementary lens to this to really support this work. So I'm going to have her talk about, because I think this was a concern with the teachers, is how do we do kind of, especially with math, how do we do these open-ended concepts? So.
Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how when you're doing this distance learning, you need to remember it's not just overlaying technology onto what you're already doing. The important thing is to really start by setting that clear goal and thinking of a big concept that you're going to be focusing on, and then giving, like we just said, a variety of ways to meet that standard and reach that goal. So can you jump to the next one, Katie?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm doing chat too.
Oh yeah, thanks. So I'm going to give kind of, this is a really rough example here, okay? And again, this is where I want you to be thinking of a project or something that you're really comfortable with. And so don't feel like stifled by this example. I also know that this is more of like a third, fourth, fifth maybe example. And for primary, you'd have to do something different, okay? So as you're thinking about what to do with your students, think about kind of that, again, start with like a clear, big concept and goal. So I just went into the Common Core standards and I picked a big goal about writing informative or explanatory texts, okay? It's a big important thing to learn in third grade. And then what you can kind of do is think, okay, now I've got this big goal, right? How can I engage my students in this and really personalize it for them? So something to think about is right now, again, harnessing student strengths. So giving that choice of what they're going to be writing about or presenting about. The other thing is providing a variety of ways for students to, if they are going to research a topic, provide a variety of ways, or they could do listening activities for it. They could do reading if that's their comfort. Listen to a podcast, all sorts of different ways they could do that. Or alternatively, if you have a student who maybe that's not the right path at this moment, where they can just write about something that they already know a ton about and they're passionate about. So just really providing those options for your students and that choice. And then, so you kind of, think about those big ideas and then the flexibility and options with it. And then can you go to the next one, Katie? Thank you. So the next thing is thinking about, in this new kind of online environment or distance environment, thinking about how students can present what they know. And it might be, you might be thinking, well, okay, I could just have my students write an essay. Well, things look a little different in this situation, right? So you might have to provide some different options and different ways for students to meet that goal. So it could be they're creating a website on whatever platform your students are comfortable with and already using. It could be maybe doing more pictures with text features and captions to show their learning about it. A magazine article, or maybe it could even be for a student who is struggling with that writing, where they present their information orally in a Flipgrid or something. So again, these are not like perfect examples. It's just my kind of thinking through of like, okay, if I'm going to provide options to my students, these are some different clear options that I could give them, and they could choose how they wanted to reach that goal of writing an informational text. So I think I'm going to go to the last one there. So the thing is to think about with this is really focus on quality and really focusing in on things versus quantity. In this new environment and situation, we're not going to cover all of the same content. We're not going to move at the same pace. Things are going to feel different. So it's really thinking about how can you focus on those big ideas, big goals, big concepts, and then create activities that give students choice to meet those goals in ways where they can really be successful with it. So again, I know that was a writing example. It could maybe be applied to reading more easily. And really the tricky one is math. And we've been hearing a lot about that math can be, it's hard to think about math in this new context. I have a slide for this later, but I do want to share that I know Patty Stevens, one of our TOSAs, has reached out, and she, in our NSD Toolbox, has set up times for virtual meetings and put some videos on there as well about how to approach math in this new context as well. Just in case you're feeling, I don't know how to apply this to math. So know that that's there as well. The last thing I almost forgot to say is when you are with things like this, just because using the word choice and flexibility, that doesn't take away the need for structure and rubrics. So it's really important that students have like a clear map of where they're going and what the final product could look like and should look like. So you're not letting them cook the buffet, right? They're choosing from that buffet, and they know that that's where they can choose from. Okay, thanks.
All right. And I know we're getting some great questions. I just wanted to acknowledge one of these questions real quick about any chance we can have Zoom meetings by grade level. And I think those things are coming. As we go through this, one of the things we're going to talk about is what next week is going to look like. And again, I think that's going to kind of lower people's stress levels, because again, it's a soft start next week. It's just that reconnection. And I think there's going to be lots of opportunities for grade levels to meet. And then the TOSAs are working really hard to try to meet the needs of everyone and try to figure out what the needs are. And, we'll be providing some of those resources as the week rolls out. So I just wanted to let you know that, because I do understand that. And I'm also working with second graders right now, and I totally understand the tech skills are a little less than maybe the older elementary kids.
And I'm looking at the chat here. I love too how people are getting really creative, where like, shifting that mindset where at this distance learning, it's not always just about tech. It could be a student creating something on paper and then they're showing you, and it can be flexible with those types of things. So it's that creative thinking.
And Megan's asking a really good question. And I think we'll just have to take some of these questions because they are really great, and we might not have specific answers for them. That about the specific days. I know there's questions about the schedule that need to be answered, so we can bring those back. And Megan and I worked on creating the FAQs for different things for teachers, and it was really helpful to have these questions, because then if we didn't know the answers, we could bring them back and get the answers for them. And then we were able to post those in a public place that everybody could see those answers. So I think that's really important. So keep the questions going. We can save the chat, and we'll also be putting out information where people can ask questions, so we can get another round of FAQs out for this second iteration of distance learning. So the next part, because I want to be mindful of everybody's time as well, is the second tip for being a distance teacher is thinking of yourself as a coach. This is one thing I really enjoyed as an online teacher, is because I was no longer standing in front of kids, and classroom management really moves to the side. I'm not saying you won't have any, but it really lessens the amount of time that you're spending on classroom management, that you really get a lot of time to just support your students, either in small groups, one-on-one, and really kind of get to know your kids. People used to ask me all the time, like as a virtual teacher, they're like, how did you even get to know your kids? And it was amazing because, again, I was a secondary teacher, but a lot of kids preferred to communicate with me via email, or they would show up to my office hours and I would get to know them there, which was really nice. So you can really get to support them in learning how to be that independent learner, which is what we're focused on for 21st century skills. So one of the things that, again, we got feedback from is regards to families, and I think this was more secondary, to be honest, than elementary, because secondary tends to be that curriculum expert, where elementary, you have to be the expert of lots of things. But as most of you probably have figured out, most kids can only pay attention for how old their age is. So you're not going to have a first grade class. You're not going to lecture to them for 30 minutes. But you also want to make sure your classes are interactive. I know everybody's at a different feeling as far as Zoom or Google Classroom or Seesaw, whatever you're choosing to use. One thing that I would encourage you to try over this week, I feel pretty confident with Zoom now. And I know people think that because I was an online teacher, I'm super techie. I'm actually not. I used to never have my face on the screen. Like that was like, no way am I ever going to have my face on the screen. So I've come a long way. I always joke, Dr. Reed actually joked about this with herself yesterday. The fact that she can have these live meetings as well means that a lot of other people can do it too. So getting comfortable, and I know they're offering Zoom 102 webinars as well, kind of getting used to those tools so you can make your classroom really interactive, especially with little kids. Having them raise their hand or unmuting them so you can call on them and things like that. And we saw a lot of awesome creative things. But again, we just want to keep the lectures and Sage on a stage to a minimum. Assign student-centered activities that rely on students solving problems, exploration, and choice. This allows them to work over a week and be flexible with what they have at home and their resources at home. It also is really supportive of, again, that UDL approach of if you have students in your class that are EL or special education, it allows them and allows you to give them different options of how to complete a project that might best meet their needs. And then office hours are great because they can be used to work individually with a student on their learning or small groups of students, depending on, who is popping in and things like that. So one of the things we were finding with this, with the first iteration, again, a little bit more at secondary, but some kids were feeling overwhelmed because teachers were assigning quite a bit of work, and it was daily work that was due every day. And we just want to move away from that, where it's more concept based and kids have basically an entire week to finish different activities to allow for flexibility within their families. So, and I put my favorite teacher on there, the Ferris Bueller teacher. Again, the other thing, and some of this might seem redundant to you a little bit, is that but we really want to express that a lot of you, or all of you, teachers are doing amazing things. I came from another district, and being at Skyview Middle School, and that's the main school that I'm at, I'm there 2 days a week, is that I have seen such amazing teaching. And then all the teaching that was shared out over the week that we did do virtual learning, I mean, it was amazing. It was so amazing to see what everybody in teams were coming up with to meet their students' needs. And I think our next iteration, especially as we don't know if families are sick, or, especially you yourselves might be working with kids at home. I know I'm trying to manage 2 teenagers at home with their education. All the things that are coming along with this is that we've got to allow people grace and flexibility and choice, just as we're allowing teachers and educators flexibility and choice. And somewhat in their schedule, we're allowing that flexibility and choice with the students. Some of the things that are really cool that you can do with kids, just a suggestion, is using those digital resources. And I know that you are using those quite a bit already, and we have a list of those resources. But having kids listen to podcasts, that's becoming very, very popular, especially among younger kids. Having them play educational games, TED Talks. I know they do like little TED Talks for younger kids. Videos, simulations, anything like virtual museums, things like that they can visit. I know that PBS Kids has a lot of things that kids can go visit places or go visit a tomb or something like that. It's a great time to let kids kind of explore what they're interested in and give them the resources to try to do that. All right, so I'm going to quit talking for a little bit. And Megan's going to stop talking for a little bit, and we are going to do a little activity here. So this is something else if you have older students. I'm going to try this out. So I don't know if you guys have ever used the breakout rooms. So we're going to use the breakout rooms and actually just put you guys in there randomly. And you are going to do an activity with the people in your group. You're going to come up with 2 ways a student can be given flexibility or choice on a reading assignment, 2 ways a student can be given flexibility choice on a math assignment, or 2 ways a student can be given flexibility or choice on a writing assignment. Then you're going to click on the link there, and you guys are going to fill it in on your, we have a Padlet open, which we'll share in just a minute.
And I'm going to interrupt just for 1 second. If
Okay.
you are like a special, like a PE, music, another content area, and this does not fit you, please make it fit to your context and your role, okay? So those were just the ones, because we know those are on the schedule, but please make it fit your role.
All right, we're gonna, and this might go horribly wrong. I don't know, but that's okay. We can make mistakes. It won't be perfect.
And I just put the Padlet in the chat. It's also on the PowerPoint if you've opened up the PowerPoint.
Okay, so breakout rooms, I gotta see. I might need to stop sharing for a second. I'm gonna stop sharing for just a minute and try this out. Oh, yep, the breakout rooms is right there.
And another thing, just know, so because we didn't know who exactly was coming, we couldn't preset the breakout rooms to make sure that you were with job-alike people. So you will be in rooms with people who have maybe very different roles than you. We know that's not perfect, but you might learn something new from a different perspective. So thanks.
Yep, and we're gonna have 3 to 4 participants in a room. It's just gonna scatter and you'll be in a room. It's pretty awesome if you haven't played with this. And then we'll have you guys come back and we'll look at the Padlet together and see what you guys came up with.
And there'll be like we can send out a message that'll give a timer as to how much time you have left in the room, just so you kind of have a gauge of that. And don't be surprised if Katie or I jump into your room, because we can move around the rooms.
Super fun. All right, here we go, everybody. Get excited. All right, let's see. We're gonna open all rooms. Okay, I think that worked, Megan.
Mm-hmm. It's asking me to join a breakout room too, so I don't know if I'll be able to jump around. So
okay, that's weird.
I'll go pop in.
All right, I'm gonna go pop in.
And make sure at the end that another tip I learned with this is sometimes you'll see on your list of rooms there's an unassigned section. So if people haven't joined their room, you got to like reassign them until they join.
Okay.
So sometimes they could just be sitting waiting. So okay, bye.
You have to reassign them. Looks like everybody's in a room.
And writing. So flexible ways for reading, I would say that they can listen to recording. That would be a flexible way for reading, I believe. Mm-hmm. Or I know for our kids, that will be their parents reading them, or having a picture walk for a book for preschoolers. Maybe teachers can have level books for them to that.
Results, the man who struck the woman must pay the
Have you guys been put in a breakout room?
Judges approve. But if there is further injury, the punishment must match the injury.
I was, but then I accidentally logged out and I don't know how to get back.
No, that's a great question. We'll play with this together. Let's see, Molly. We'll see what we can do here.
Okay.
Megan was telling me this might happen.
And I'm not in a room either.
Okay, well, we're gonna find out.
He must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye.
Oh, look at
And
it.
if a man knocks out the tooth of his male or female slave, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. If an ox scores a man or woman to death, the ox must
That would be
be
bad.
and its flesh may not be. In such a case, however, the owner
Let's
is
see.
wrong.
I think I can go down again.
But
I have
suppose the
been with
ox
these
had a
very much. This
reputation
is
to
my
be born,
opportunity.
and the owner had been informed but failed to keep it under control. If the ox then kills someone, it must be stoned, and the owner must also.
If I can just drag you over.
Nope.
Did that work? Nope.
The loss of life. The owner of the ox may have been.
Okay, let me see.
The same regulation applies if the ox scores a boy or a girl. But if the ox scores a slave, either male
How
or
do we
female,
get you guys
the
back
animal's owner must pay
in?
the slave's owner 30 silver
Do you
coins.
So I
see
breakout
the-
room bottom next to chat.
Suppose someone
Oh, if
digs
you go
or
down to the
uncovers
chat.
a pit and fails to cover it, and then an
When
ox
I
or
click
a
it, it doesn't do
falls
anything.
If you go down to the bottom where it says
full
chat,
compensation to the
is
owner
there a
of the
breakout
animal,
room
but
button?
then he gets to keep the dead animal.
Yes.
If someone's
All right,
ox
I think
injures
you can
the
join
neighbor's
there.
ox and the injured ox dies, then the two owners must sell the live ox and divide the price equally between them.
So
They
did you
must
guys see
also
that? If you
divide
go to
the
breakout
dead
room down
But
at
if
the
the
bottom, I
ox
think you can join there.
Lord, yet its owner failed to keep it under
And
control.
you
Well,
can
I'm
click
clicking
on
on it and
breakout
it's
room and click
Full
join.
compensation
not doing
for the live
anything.
ox for the dead one, but he may keep the dead ox.
So if you scroll down to the bottom, it says chat. Is there a breakout room? It looks like 4 little squares.
Yes, it does say join breakout room, the 4 little squares, and I click on it and it's not doing anything for me.
Does a list come up of breakout rooms?
I'm seeing just different people's names.
Does it say join on next to it?
No, I don't see that.
I moved Megan out into the main room. Oh, wait a minute. Shoot. If you're in there, I can move you to a different room. This is good to know because this would happen.
Yeah.
Chat, make host, allow record, rename, remove. We don't want to do that. Let's see in here. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of to do is if you go to if you click on the breakout room.
I'm not sure why.
I should have you share. Do you want to share your screen with me real quick? Do you see share screen? It might be just me sharing my screen.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh, okay. Let's see what's up at the top. And when you click on that, just a list of names pop up.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't say join next to it.
No.
Let me, then I would go out of the main room. I'm just trying to figure out how you reassign. Let me.
I joined late into your message, your whole chat, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, but it shouldn't matter because I should be able to assign you. And that's what Megan was trying to tell me. Let me see if I can go. Let me go get Megan and have her come back out and help
Well, and the other thing is just I'm having a Zoom session with my own class in about 10 minutes. So
Okay.
I don't know if I can, I'm not sure how long this is going to last.
Oh, okay. Guess what? I just found somebody it says assign to, and you can assign them to different breakout rooms.
Oh.
Okay. I just did that. Why does it say unassigned if you're unassigned? Oh, I just clicked on you. And then, oh, wait a minute. No, that says assigned to, I'm just making breakout rooms.
Am I the only one not assigned?
No, there's a whole list of people here. I just thought if I clicked on you that you might go to the unassigned. Let's see what that says. That says 0. Click join breakout room bottom next to chat. Well, we've been trying that, and that comes up for me. That's funny too. Nothing's coming up on my Padlet.
That's okay. I mean,
Well, I can still send you the link to the Padlet and you can write on it. You can help me see if it actually works. Let's see.
when you talk about next week being a soft week, I think that's my biggest question is what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, and
how are we engaging with our kids next week?
Yeah, it's basically just trying to reconnect. I'm gonna just set, oh, just a second. Megan's calling.
Okay.
Hi there. Are we having issues? Okay, I'm gonna put it broadcast a message for all and send the link. Oh, there's no plus at the bottom? Okay, double click anywhere, drag. Can you see a block on it now or no? Okay, let me share, invite members, share. Add members, privacy, let's see. It shouldn't be private. Invite people. Let me just make, no, I shouldn't have to invite people. I'm copying it again. Yeah, no, I just put copy link to clipboard. And I just put it to everyone in the chat box. Let me see if I can I just put it to everybody. I'm gonna I can't see the plus either. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. That's just, okay, and I can't figure out how to reassign people to the breakout room. Like it says unassigned, but if they're in the participants box, they don't seem to be able to get in. They're in the participant section. All right, so everybody that's in the participant section, we are going, you guys can talk about what we're doing, and I'm going to put the Padlet right there. And I'm going to unmute you guys so you guys can all talk to each other. And so we kind of want to just talk about if you want to go to the Padlet. We have lots of people that are back in the main room. And were you guys able to get on the new Padlet?
We were not.
Okay, so I just put it in the box for everybody, and this is why we're learning. Okay, so new Padlet to post ideas. So I put that in the chat box, so you guys can click on that, and you should be able to go on the Padlet that's on there.
Let's see.
If somebody wants to give it a try for me, that would be awesome. Ah, I see people. And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to share this real quick with you guys so you guys can see it. And then please post to new Padlet. So these are some of the things that happen. And that is okay. All right. Ooh, I like the create a restaurant. I'm going to share this with everybody so they can see it.
Oops. Oh.
Getting a lot of good ideas here.
Katie, I might be missing something, but when I click on the Padlet link, I don't see anything on my board.
Is it popping up sometimes? Sometimes I feel like this is something, and I'm not saying this is happening to you, but this happened to me constantly, is I could not find the screens. The screens were getting hidden behind.
I see the Padlet board, like I see it's a green background and it says
oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one.
Okay.
Let me go. If you go to the chat box, I shared the new one.
Okay.
Yes, that was my mistake, and I can't figure out what I did to it. I broke it somehow.
Okay, no worries. I'll find the most recent one.
It should look like the one that's on the board right now that I'm sharing. It has the stars and it says choice and flexibility.
Hey, Katie, can you just send a message out to everyone, because I don't have the capability to do that. And there looks like there's some people who aren't in this room who never clicked join a breakout room, and I'm worried they're just sitting alone.
Oh no, they're all sitting here working on it right now.
Oh no, I saw some other.
Should we just all come back together?
Yeah, I think we might want to all come back.
we were never able to use the Padlet. We kept reloading it. No one could add anything to it or type on it.
Yeah, because we had the wrong, I don't know what I did. See? It's,
Yeah.
it is.
So
And it's all
the link,
recorded for everybody to see.
the link that was most recently sent, I think from Megan was still the old Padlet board. So I can't find the
I'm gonna
new
send
link.
it again.
Okay, thank you.
Because it should have a starry background.
Yeah, and I don't see that one.
There it is. Fingers crossed. All right, and then Katie, if you end the breakout rooms, it should give everybody like a little warning. So
Yeah, it's counting down right now.
Okay, perfect.
I just wanted to say, like, our Padlet, it was a green screen one, and we couldn't post anything.
It's a green screen one. Megan, I know.
I'm gonna keep resending it.
I just want to say thank you. I have to leave. I have a 10 o'clock Zoom with my classroom. So
yes,
thank you. And I have this, and now I have everything that not everything that I need, but I have things that will help me. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for attending.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you. The breakout room was a great thing. Is there a way for us to learn how to do that?
Yes, go to the Zoom 102 webinar.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you can't go to that one, they have a recording of it.
I need to leave as well. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Do we know when the Zoom 102 one is?
If it's not on the blended learning site, they definitely have a recording of it.
Okay. Thank you. And I have a 10 o'clock meeting, so I have to go to. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So it looks like everybody should be back here. We're just going to debrief a few technical things. We realized the first Padlet was missing the plus button to add anything. So I've sent out a new one that should show up with a starry background that you can add to. The other thing is we realized that some people, they didn't get assigned into a breakout room. So hopefully there was somebody there with you you could talk to. There is a way to then assign. We're not sure what happened. But if you ever use breakout rooms again, when we first break out, a little box will pop up and you have to click join breakout room, and that should let you in. Yeah, and
we'll put those on there I have a secondary one here later, so we'll play with it more. And maybe I need to attend the Zoom 102 session to learn how to do these and quit just playing with it. So as you can see, it's okay to make mistakes. We're all human, and I think it's good for our students to see us make mistakes too. But I thought the breakout rooms were kind of fun. So I
heard really great ideas. Like when I was popping into rooms, like really creative ideas about using things that students have in their homes to do these activities, because that's a huge part of this. Is we've got to consider what our students have. They can't just order things for projects on Amazon. We've got to use what they've got. So
exactly. So I'm going to share the rest of this because it sounds like a lot of people have other 10 o'clock ones to go to. I apologize for the people watching this on video. Maybe they can fast forward through it. So some of the other tips to being an amazing distance teacher, which again, it just looks we're doing it already. It looks different in a distance learning environment, is we want to make sure we're connecting with our students as individuals as frequently as possible. And I really like the suggestion, Megan reminded me of it, of playing on students' strengths. And then doing this through email, phone calling. I know that the district put out the star 67, I think, or you can get a Google Voice account if that's what you feel comfortable with. During your office hours, small group and individual meetings are all opportunities to give students that feedback to keep them going and engaging in their learning, which I think is really important. Again, I would just keep it short and concise, and I always use the positive sandwich, where at the beginning I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I'm so excited that you did this. Hey, I wonder if you did this, and then, keep going, and I'm here to support you, blah, blah, blah. So I have seen with online, just be careful if you don't know this already. My dad does this, writes in all capitals. Don't do that. That's yelling. And try really hard to just, again, read your email and make sure, because a lot can be put emojis in there, especially for little kids. Anything that makes anything that you're giving constructive criticism to sound nicer as they're reading it, if that makes sense. We've all been there. Trying to interpret what the tone of a text is, or a email is. And then the other thing, which I was reading some research, and this is another reminder, which I kind of needed, is that we all know that students are social creatures. As human beings, we're social creatures, and that's being tested right now, I think, very much so. And I feel really fortunate where we have Zoom and the technology. We were talking to my kids about if this would have happened 30 years ago, how different it would have been, because we would have all been fighting over the telephone to talk on our one-line telephone to people, because we just didn't have anything like this in. But I think as this goes on, hopefully, you know, not too much longer, but it could, is really encouraging kids to collaborate with each other. And I know first and second graders might need help with this, but it could be collaborating within your classroom, or, you know, having a parent meeting where you talk to them about this and supporting them. But it could also not even be through Zoom. It could be through posting a discussion on something, or like, again, something fun like bringing your pet to class day, having students write and share, and have students creating their own things to share with their friends or their students, other students, just so they're connecting with each other. And again, I want to just reiterate, this week is really about connecting with kids. You do not have to have a big project ready for Monday. That is not the expectation, is to have a project ready for Monday. We know that this came down the line a little bit closer later, and this is also something we wanted to share. The NSD Staff Toolbox has been updated and cleaned up.
Some parts of it, some are still under construction.
Yeah, but I do like one of the things that they did, they put an elementary section and a secondary section, because somebody brought up a good point, is if you're an elementary teacher, you're having to search all over the place for your stuff because you're kind of the expert of everything. So now elementary is all together in one piece. And then Patty Stevens sent out an email earlier today, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, where she created a video of herself on how to use the toolbox. And then we're going to be spending the week supporting them and working with them to create as much stuff as we can. The other part of it is we obviously don't want to overwhelm people either with the amount of resources, but right now your colleagues are going to be your best buddies. And again, don't reinvent the wheel. Take something that's been successful in the past, and you don't have to try different technology if you don't want to. Keep it really simple. And really this week, and I'm going to turn this one, is just
I'm going to say one more thing before you go. Wait, one more thing before you go to the next slide. The other thing I want to say is all those home learning resources that we put up for families to use, those are still going to be available if you have families who are looking for even more. There's also some resources in there that you might want to also use, especially the ones with like the leveled books and things like that, because we don't have access to our libraries. We don't have access to any of our leveled books. So that is something you could look into also. Okay, last slide.
All right. And lastly, again, Monday's a soft start. And I know as elementary, you'll see all of your kids on Monday. But again, and it sounds like some teachers are already meeting with their kids today. Allow students as yourself to rely on your personal strengths. Just as we just totally messed up the Padlet, that's all on me. That's okay, because I tried something different and it was fun, and it, you know, we all have grace. And I think it's great for everybody to see each other trying and goofing up and, you know, learning from their mistakes. I always think that's really beneficial for my kids and my students to see. So again, rely on your tried and true things that you've always done in your classroom. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. And again, this week is just making sure they understand how they're going to engage in their learning. They've been off a week, so refresh them on Seesaw or Google Classroom, and this is how we're going to do things and processes, and just maybe provide an initial independent task. It might be, hey guys, I want you to work on iReady this week, X amount of time, and do some independent reading. Or maybe it's start exploring a topic that you're really interested in. Something that they can do independent. One thing that, just an idea that Edmonds hasn't been, my kids are in the Edmonds School District, and they haven't been as proactive as North Shore has been. And so I've been really in charge of my kids' education this week. And what I have found really interesting that I'm sure you guys have seen come across your computers is how much freebies we're getting right now. So like one thing I did was sign, like my son loves baseball and he's really disappointed that right now his baseball season is on hold. So, and he is 14, he's not a little kid, but I signed him up for a history and baseball course because it's free for a month. And so he was like, cool. So that's his social studies until we get further notice. So if you can find stuff or have kids explore things that they're interested in, I think this is a great opportunity to do that. But take care of yourself too, first and foremost. The schedule is not to stress people out. It's just to get us connected. And remember, we have spring break right after. So you get a week and then spring break and then we get to start again. So it's really very much a soft start. So we're going to do our best to answer questions in the chat box. I think I can save the chat box. So we'll get those questions and then hopefully we'll have an FAQ out pretty soon.
Yeah, and I just threw an article into the chat box that I found really helpful. And it's just about trauma-informed practices with students during this time. And I think it helps kind of guide as you're reconnecting with students even more this next week. How do you really encourage that reflection and check in on their well-being and journaling and things like that? Because I know you guys have been doing that this week with students, but just remembering to continue that now that you have all of your students that you're reconnecting with. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody have a great day. Try those breakout rooms. They're kind of awesome. And don't try Padlet. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Thank you.
And you have access to Padlet to see anything you want to see that people wrote on there. So thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.